The old folks told stories, whispers of a place best left undisturbed, the whispering woods. They said the trees held memories, the wind, secrets, and the shadows. They held something far worse. No one who dared enter after dark ever returned. Still, some dismissed it as folklore, a silly ghost story they'd learned. Everything fears the whispering woods, even fear itself. Sarah and Mark were different, or so they thought. Young, adventurous, they scoffed at the local tales. Just superstition, Mark would say, his voice strong, his grip on Sarah's hand reassuring. They decided to camp for the night, a final adventure before their return to the city. The woods called to them, an irresistible siren song. They were ready to prove the stories wrong. Twilight painted the sky in hues of purple and blood orange. The forest floor grew dark, the path ahead disappearing into shadow. A shiver ran down Sarah's spine, but Mark's hand found hers. They ventured deeper, the air growing heavy, the silence deafening. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sounded unnaturally loud. The woods were watching, waiting. They set up camp, their laughter a jarring sound against the oppressive silence of the woods. Later, as the fire crackled, casting eerie dancing shadows, Mark decided to get more firewood. "I'll be right back," he said, kissing Sarah's forehead. He didn't return. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Sarah called his name, her voice swallowed by the trees. Panic clawed at her throat. "Mark!" she screamed. Only silence answered. Section 5. Whispers in the dark. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced Sarah. She grabbed the flashlight, its beam a weak defiance against the encroaching darkness. Among the rustle of leaves she heard it, whispers. Soft, indistinct, yet undeniably there. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Her name, twisted, echoing through the trees. A chorus of voices just out of sight. The woods were alive, and they were hungry. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, each beat a desperate plea for escape. The flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced and twisted, playing tricks on her eyes. She took a hesitant step forward, the crunch of leaves underfoot sounding unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by an unseen force. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if the very trees were conspiring against her. She could almost make out words now, fragments of sentences that sent chills down her spine. "Sarah, come closer, join us." The voices were a haunting melody, a siren's call that tugged at the edges of her sanity. She swung the flashlight wildly, the beam slicing through the darkness but revealing nothing. The forest seemed to close in around her, the trees leaning in, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out to ensnare her. Panic surged through her veins, and she stumbled backwards, her breath coming in ragged gasps. In the distance, she thought she saw a faint light, a glimmer of hope in the suffocating blackness. Summoning every ounce of courage, she forced her legs to move, each step a monumental effort. The whispers followed her, relentless, growing more frenzied with each passing second. "Sarah, don't leave us." As she neared the light, she realized it was a small clearing bathed in an otherworldly glow. The whispers ceased abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence that was almost worse. She stood at the edge, trembling, unsure if she had truly escaped or if this was just another trick of the forest. The woods were alive, and they were hungry. Section 6. The search continues. Driven by fear and a desperate hope, Sarah plunged deeper into the woods. Each step was an ordeal, the whispering growing louder, the darkness thicker, more oppressive. The flashlight flickered, threatening to leave her in complete darkness. She stumbled, falling to her knees. That's when she saw it, a single solitary boot, Mark's boot, lying discarded on the forest floor. Her blood ran cold. Section 7. The Twisted Tree. The whispers led her onward, deeper into the heart of the woods. Then she saw it. A giant, twisted oak, its branches gnarled and contorted into grotesque shapes. It pulsed with an unnatural energy. The whispers were louder here, swirling around the tree like a vortex. She could almost see them, wispy tendrils of smoke, reaching out, caressing her face with icy fingers. Section 8. Faces of the Lost. As she stared at the oak, a horrifying realization dawned. Carved into its bark were faces. Dozens, no, hundreds of them. Eyes stared out, hollow and empty, mouths frozen in silent screams. They were the faces of those the woods had claimed. Lost souls, trapped within the tree's grasp. And in the center, staring back at her, she saw him, Mark, his face contorted in a silent plea. She took a step closer, her heart pounding in her chest. The air around the tree felt colder, as if the very life was being sucked out of it. Each face told a story, a tale of despair and hopelessness. She could almost hear their whispers, faint and haunting, carried by the wind that rustled through the leaves. The faces seemed to move, their expressions shifting ever so slightly, as if they were trying to communicate with her. Her mind raced back to the stories she had heard as a child, tales of the cursed woods where people vanished without a trace. She had always dismissed them as mere legends, but now, standing before this grotesque monument, she couldn't deny the truth. The oak tree was a prison, a tomb for the lost souls who had wandered too far into the darkness. Mark's face was the most recent addition, his features still fresh and distinct. She reached out, her fingers trembling, and touched the bark where his face was carved. A jolt of cold shot through her hand, and she pulled back, gasping. The connection was undeniable. Mark was here, trapped, and she had to find a way to free him, but how? The woods were ancient, their secrets buried deep. She knew she couldn't do it alone. She needed help, someone who understood the dark magic that held these souls captive. Determined, she turned away from the tree, vowing to return and save Mark, no matter the cost. Section 9, Forever Trapped. The whispers grew stronger, pulling her closer to the oak. She struggled, but it was no use. The woods had her now. She could feel her life draining away, her energy seeping into the tree. Her scream died in her throat, swallowed by the whispers. Her face was etched onto the oak, joining the chorus of the lost. The woods had claimed 2 more souls. Section 10. The woods remember. The whispering woods stand silent. The wind rustles through the leaves, carrying the faint echoes of whispers. The twisted oak stands at the heart of it all, a macabre monument to the woods' hunger. They say the woods remember, every scream, every plea, every life claimed, a chilling reminder that some places are best left undisturbed. The whispering woods are waiting. What will you hear when they whisper to you? But these woods are not just silent observers. They are ancient, with roots that dig deep into the earth, intertwining with the past. The trees have witnessed countless stories, some of love and joy, but many of sorrow and despair. The air is thick with the weight of these memories, and if you listen closely, you might hear the faintest echoes of those who once walked these paths. The twisted oak, gnarled and ancient, stands as a sentinel. Its branches reach out like skeletal fingers, casting long shadows that dance in the dim light. This tree, more than any other, seems to hold the essence of the wood's dark history. It is said that those who dare to touch its bark can feel the pulse of the forest, a heartbeat that thrums with the energy of all it has consumed. As night falls, the woods take on an even more sinister tone. The darkness seems to come alive, with shadows that move and shift, playing tricks on the mind. The whispers grow louder, more insistent, as if the woods are trying to communicate, to share their secrets. But these are not secrets meant for the faint of heart. They are tales of lost souls, of wanderers who never found their way out, of cries that were never answered. The whispering woods are a place of mystery and danger, a reminder that nature, in all its beauty, can also be unforgiving. So if you ever find yourself at the edge of these woods, take a moment to listen. What will you hear when they whisper to you? Will it be a warning, a plea, or perhaps a call to join the countless others who have become part of the forest's eternal memory?